What would you do if the love of your life vanished without a trace, leaving behind nothing but whispers of an urban legend that sent shivers down the spine of even the bravest souls? My name is Ethan Carter, and I'm here to tell you about the night my world shattered beneath the weight of a haunting tale that had lingered in the shadows of our small town, Millfield, Ohio, for decades. It all began on a crisp autumn evening, under a sky that seemed to hold its breath as I walked hand in hand with my girlfriend Lily through the dimly lit streets of Maplewood Park. The air was thick with the scent of fallen leaves, and the distant laughter of other couples echoed off the old stone walls that lined the park. But there was an edge to the atmosphere, a prickling sensation that danced along my skin as if the very trees were whispering secrets I was not meant to hear. I should have known then that something was off, that the sinister threads of an old legend were weaving their way into our lives. There's a story that's been passed down through generations in Millfield, one that every couple hears in hushed tones. It centers around a young woman named Margaret, who, decades ago, fell in love with a handsome stranger at a summer fair. Their romance bloomed under the stars, but one fateful night she vanished, leaving the townsfolk to speculate if she had run away with her lover or if something far more sinister had claimed her. The legend says that if you walk through Maplewood Park at midnight on the anniversary of her disappearance, you can hear her calling out for her lost love, her voice echoing through the trees. That night, with Halloween just around the corner, the tale felt particularly alive. As Lily and I strolled through the park, I felt a compulsion to share the story. "Have you ever heard about Margaret?" I asked, trying to inject some levity into the creeping dread that had settled over me. But as I recounted the legend, I noticed a flicker of unease in Lily's eyes. "It's just a story, right?" she pressed, though I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. There was something about her reaction that sent a chill racing down my spine, as if the tale had burrowed its way into her mind, sowing seeds of doubt and fear. The first signs of conflict emerged when we reached the old stone bridge, the very spot where Margaret was said to have vanished. The moonlight cast an eerie glow over the water, and for a moment I thought I saw something shimmer beneath the surface. "Did you see that?" I asked, but Lily shook her head. Her expression was distant, her gaze fixed on the water as if it held answers she wasn't ready to confront. It struck me then that the park wasn't just a backdrop. It was alive, a breathing entity, steeped in the weight of its history. The trees loomed overhead like ancient sentinels, and the wind whispered through the branches, carrying with it the echoes of lost loves and unfulfilled promises. Perhaps it was the spirit of Margaret herself, lingering in the shadows, waiting to ensnare another pair of lovers in her tragic tale. As I looked into Lily's eyes, I felt the tension between us, a shared fear of the unknown, a fear that perhaps we were not the first to tread these haunted grounds. My heart raced, not just from the thrill of the legend, but from a deeper, more personal terror. For I carried my own history of loss, a past that had left me wary of love, and now, with the air thick with mystery, it felt as though the very fabric of my reality was beginning to unravel. But when night fell, something inexplicable happened. As the last light of day slipped away, the air grew heavier and the shadows deepened, swallowing the familiar paths of Maplewood Park. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, a frantic rhythm that mirrored the unease settling over me. Lily's hand slipped from mine, and I turned to find her staring intently at the bridge, her expression a mixture of fear and intrigue. "Ethan, what if the story is real?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I tried to dismiss her worries with a laugh, but it came out hollow, lacking the confidence I wished to project. "It's just a legend, babe. People love to tell spooky stories, especially around Halloween. It's all for fun." Yet my own voice felt feeble against the backdrop of the night. The trees whispered around us, rustling as if in agreement with her doubts. Just then, a figure emerged from the darkness on the opposite side of the bridge, a tall man draped in a long coat that seemed to absorb the moonlight. He approached with an air of purpose, his sharp features illuminated by the silvery glow. I squinted against the dark, trying to read his intentions. "Hey, you too," he called out, his voice rough yet somehow magnetic. "Careful where you tread. This place has a way of trapping those who linger too long." My instincts screamed caution, but there was an undeniable pull to his presence. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my tone steady. "Name's Henry," he replied, stepping closer. "I'm a local historian, or at least that's what I tell myself. I've been studying Margaret's story for years." His eyes flickered to Lily, then back to me, gauging our reactions. "You've heard the legend, haven't you?" Lily nodded slowly, her earlier confidence crumbling. "We were just talking about it," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Talking about it isn't the same as understanding it," Henry said, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "You need to know. Those who seek Margaret often find more than they bargained for." A shiver raced down my spine at his words, and I felt the tension in the air thicken. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice low. Henry leaned closer, his breath visible in the cool night air. "People think they can walk away from her legend, that it's just a story. But once you step into her world, you become part of it. Margaret doesn't just disappear, she takes what she desires." Lily's eyes widened, and I could sense the fear radiating from her. "What does she desire?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Love," Henry replied, his gaze piercing. "But love comes with a price. Those who truly believe in her story often find themselves drawn into her web, just as many before you have. It's more than just a tale. It's a warning." I felt the weight of his words settle over me, and the night seemed to grow heavier. "What happened to those who vanished?" I pressed, unable to shake the feeling that the walls were closing in around us. "They become echoes," he said, his voice a mere whisper now. "Shadows of their former selves, trapped in the very fabric of this park, searching for their lost loves forever." The chill in the air deepened, wrapping around us like a serpent. Panic bubbled up inside me as I turned to Lily, but she was staring at Henry, entranced by his words. "What if—" she started, her voice trailing off. "What if we need to find her? What if we can help her?" "No!" I blurted, desperation rising in my voice. "We can't get involved in this. It's just a story." But doubt gnawed at me, clawing at the corners of my mind. The legend was alive, breathing around us, and I felt the first seeds of fear take root in my heart. As the wind rustled through the leaves, carrying a distant, haunting melody that echoed like a call, I realized the night was only beginning. Before I could voice another protest, the ground beneath us trembled, a low rumble that sent a jolt through my body. The park seemed to shift, And in that moment, I knew we were no longer merely spectators in Margaret's tale. We were players in a game far older and more dangerous than we could have imagined. The real nightmare was just beginning. As I stood there, the tremors beneath us subsided, but the weight of Henry's words lingered in the air. I could see the uncertainty in Lily's eyes, and it mirrored my own unease. She was captivated by the story, by the idea of helping Margaret, while I felt a desperate need to protect her from whatever darkness lay ahead. Ethan, what if we could really help her? Lily's voice held a tremor of excitement I couldn't ignore. What if she's been waiting for someone to understand? Understand what? I snapped, frustration bubbling to the surface. This is nonsense. We don't even know if she's real. But deep down, I felt the familiar itch of doubt creeping in. What if there was truth in Henry's tale? What if Margaret was more than just a story? Henry stepped back, folding his arms with a bemused expression. You may not believe, but those who do often pay the highest price, he warned. You have to decide if you're willing to risk everything for a ghost. As his eyes bore into me, I felt a surge of memories flood back. Memories I had long buried. I could almost hear my mother's voice telling me stories of lost things and lost people, of how love could turn into something darker. I remembered the night she vanished, the arguments that filled our home with tension, the way the shadows seemed to swallow her whole before she disappeared into thin air. Ethan? Lily's voice jolted me back to the present. What's wrong? I shook my head, trying to dismiss the swirling thoughts. Nothing, just memories, I murmured, but I could see the concern etched on her face. Maybe I just need to think. But before I could finish, the world around us shifted again. The trees seemed to lean in closer, their branches twisted like skeletal fingers, and the haunting melody I had heard earlier grew louder, wrapping around us like a cocoon. Do you hear that? Lily asked, her eyes wide with both fear and fascination. Yeah, I replied, my heart racing. It's like someone singing. Henry's expression darkened, and he took a step back. That's not a song you want to follow, he warned. It lures you in, promises you what you're missing, but it never ends well. I glanced at Lily, her gaze locked on the bridge where shadows danced like flickering flames. What if it's a way to find her? She whispered, her voice filled with a reckless determination that sent chills down my spine. Lily, please, I pleaded, but it was too late. She was already moving toward the sound, drawn like a moth to a flame. Suddenly, the ground beneath us shuddered violently, and I stumbled back, grabbing her wrist just in time. We can't go there, I shouted, but she pulled against me, her eyes ablaze with purpose. Ethan, I need to know, she cried, desperation creeping into her voice. What if this is the answer? What if we can find the truth about Margaret and about your mother? The mention of my mother struck a nerve, twisting the knife of my past deeper. I had never shared those memories with Lily, never spoken of the fear that had haunted my childhood. You don't understand, I gasped. This is bigger than us. But Lily had already made up her mind, and as she broke free from my grasp, I felt my heart drop. The shadows were closing in around her, and I knew in that moment that I had to make a choice. I could either let her go, or I could confront the darkness that had haunted me for years. With a surge of determination, I stepped forward, my voice unwavering. If you're going, I'm going with you. But we have to be careful. I won't lose you like I lost her. And as we crossed the threshold of the bridge, I felt the air shift, the very fabric of reality bending around us. The legend was alive, and now we were tangled in its web, together facing whatever horrors awaited us on the other side. As we stepped onto the bridge, the melody enveloped us, a haunting lullaby that seemed to pull at the very fibers of my soul. I felt the air thicken, an electric charge running through the atmosphere, heightening every sense. The shadows flickered around us, weaving in and out of the dim light, and for a moment I couldn't distinguish reality from the dreamscape we were entering. "Ethan, are you ready?" Lily's voice broke through the haze, and I could see her trembling, not just from fear, but from the thrill of the unknown. Her determination ignited something within me, a flicker of hope that was quickly overshadowed by the memories of loss and despair. "I don't know if I'll ever be ready," I admitted, my voice barely a whisper, "but I can't let you do this alone." As we moved forward, the shadows deepened and the melody shifted, morphing into something darker, more sinister. The bridge creaked under our weight, and I heard a whisper, a voice that sliced through the air like a knife. "Ethan, Lily, come to me." I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The voice was so familiar, a ghostly echo of my mother's lullaby from my childhood. Panic surged through me, threatening to drown out my resolve. "Lily, we shouldn't." But she pressed onward, her expression a mix of fear and courage. "We have to see what it is," she insisted, her grip tightening around my hand. "I can feel it. It's calling to us." As we reached the center of the bridge, the shadows swirled violently, coalescing into ethereal figures. I gasped as I recognized their faces, lost souls trapped in a cycle of longing and despair. Among them, a woman stood out, her features illuminated by a strange light. She was beautiful, yet there was a sorrowful weight in her eyes that echoed my own pain. "Margaret," I breathed, the name slipping from my lips unbidden. The figure turned, locking eyes with me, and I felt a surge of recognition that left me breathless. It was as if I were staring into a mirror reflecting my own grief. "Ethan," she said, her voice soft yet heavy, "you've come to find me, to understand." The shadows around us seemed to pulse with energy, and I felt the weight of their collective sorrow pressing down on me. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her, yet terror gripped my heart. "What do you want from us?" I demanded, my voice trembling as I confronted the entity before me. At that moment, Henry's voice cut through the chaos, interrupting the fragile moment. "You have to choose, Ethan," he shouted, appearing at the edge of the bridge. "You can't save them all. Remember what I said about the price of belief." Lily looked between me and the figure, her expression torn. "Ethan, please, we can help her." The tension in the air crackled as I weighed my options. I could feel the weight of my past colliding with the present, the fear of losing Lily battling with the urge to confront the truth. "What if this is a trap?" I shouted, desperation creeping into my tone. "What if we're walking into our doom?" Margaret's gaze softened, and I could see her pain reflected in the depths of her eyes. "Help me, Ethan. Help me find peace," she pleaded, her voice weaving through the air like a fragile thread. In that moment, a decision crystallized within me. I could choose fear and abandon, or I could choose to confront the darkness together, to face whatever horrors lay ahead for Lily and for myself. The shadows danced around us, and I felt the weight of their gaze, urging me to embrace the unknown. "Lily," I said, my voice steady now, "if we do this, we do it together. No turning back." With that, I stepped closer to the swirling shadows, ready to face whatever would come next. The melody crescendoed, and as it enveloped us, I felt the world shift beneath our feet, the bridge trembling with anticipation. Whatever lay beyond, we would confront it side by side. As I stepped closer to the swirling shadows, a sudden surge of energy erupted around us, and I felt Lily's hand tighten in mine, grounding me even as the forces of the unknown threatened to sweep us away. The shadows converged, and the haunting melody reached a fever pitch, vibrating through my bones, resonating with a deep-seated sorrow I had long tried to bury. Margaret's figure shimmered, flickering like a dying flame. "You must accept the truth, Ethan," she implored, her voice a soft blend of anguish and hope. "Only then can we find peace." I could see the pain etched into her ethereal form, a tether to the world that had bound her for so long. Before I could respond, the shadows erupted, swirling violently around us, their whispers morphing into a cacophony of cries. I felt myself being pulled into the midst of it, surrounded by the lost souls, their faces contorted in anguish. I struggled against their grasp, feeling the weight of their despair pressing in from all sides. "Ethan!" Lily's scream cut through the chaos, and I turned to see her being pulled away, her expression a mix of fear and fierce determination. "I won't let go." As I reached for her, the shadows intensified, and I felt a searing pain shoot through my arm as if the very essence of my being was being torn apart. I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to focus on Margaret. "I accept the truth," I shouted, my voice barely audible over the tumult. "Just let us go." In an instant, a blinding light enveloped us. The shadows shrieked and recoiled, their forms dissipating into a fine mist. I felt a rush of warmth, as if the very air had shifted to embrace us. In a heartbeat, the chaos subsided, and we found ourselves standing on solid ground, the bridge now bathed in a soft glow. But the relief was short-lived. I looked down at my arm, the skin marred by dark lines, a reminder of the toll the confrontation had taken. I could feel a deep ache in my chest, a void that would never truly heal. Lily stood beside me, breathing heavily, her eyes wide with shock. "We did it, but at what cost?" As the remnants of the shadows faded completely, I noticed Henry, standing a few feet away, his face pale. "You shouldn't have confronted them," he said, his voice trembling. "The price of belief is steep." I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. In our quest to help Margaret, had we inadvertently doomed ourselves? Lily's gaze darted around, searching for answers. "What about her?" she asked, glancing back at where Margaret had stood. "Is she gone for good?" A silence fell, and we both felt the weight of the unasked questions lingering in the air. The melody had quieted, but the echoes of its somber notes still lingered, a reminder that some mysteries remain unresolved. "Look," I said, pointing to the ground where Margaret had stood. A small, shimmering object lay nestled among the stones, a locket engraved with intricate patterns. I picked it up, feeling an inexplicable connection to it. This could be a clue, something to understand what happened here. As I turned to share my discovery with Lily, I noticed Henry's expression darken. "You have to be careful," he warned, taking a step back. "Not everything that calls to you wants to be found." The shadows were gone, but the scars remained, both visible and hidden. Our victory felt hollow, as if we had only scratched the surface of something much larger. I knew in that moment that our journey was far from over. What do we do now? Lily asked, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. I looked at the locket, its secrets waiting to be unveiled, and felt a spark of determination ignite within me. We find out. Together. With that, we stepped away from the bridge, the air heavy with the promise of new mysteries, the shadows whispering faintly behind us. Whatever awaited us next, I knew we would face it side by side, forever changed, yet unwilling to back down from the darkness that beckoned. As I held the locket in my palm, a surge of desperation coursed through me. The shadows might have retreated, but a lingering darkness loomed over our victory. I felt the weight of Margaret's unfinished business hanging in the air, palpable and suffocating. "Ethan," Lily whispered, her voice trembling as she sensed my turmoil. "What if we could use this, the locket, to bring her back, to set her free?" The idea sparked a flicker of hope, but as I looked into her eyes, I knew that hope often came at a price. And what if doing so means sacrificing others? What if we unleash something worse? I felt the locket pulse in my hand as if it were alive, urging me to make a choice. I could try to unlock its secrets and perhaps bring Margaret back from the void, but I could also sense that such an act might come with catastrophic consequences. Perhaps not for us, but for those innocent souls who had nothing to do with our journey. "Maybe we can save everyone," I said, trying to convince myself as much as her. But in my heart, I felt the truth. The locket was a beacon, a call to the shadows that had just begun to fade. Lily's expression grew serious, and I could see the conflict mirrored in her eyes. "Ethan, we can't play with forces we don't fully understand." I took a deep breath, the weight of the decision heavy on my shoulders. I had the power to escape this nightmare, to release us from this torment, but at what cost? In that moment, the locket began to glow brighter, and I understood. I could either save myself and Lily, but doom countless others, or we could leave the past behind and let Margaret rest in peace. With a heavy heart, I closed my eyes and made my choice, feeling the locket's energy pulse against my skin. And just like that, the shadows began to swirl once more, beckoning me to join them, promising liberation at a price I was not ready to pay. As the darkness enveloped us again, I heard Lily's voice in the distance pleading. I opened my eyes, realizing that my choice had set in motion a cycle that would never truly end. We might escape, but the darkness would remain, hungry for more. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more tales filled with mystery and adventure. Share with your friends so they can join us on this journey, and leave a comment below telling us your favorite part or what kind of ending you'd like to see in a future story.